Okay, Q&A time. If we were in class after the little lecture I gave, we would have had a little time to talk about some concepts, and obviously we can't really this way. We'll probably try over Zoom if that actually works out the way it's supposed to. I'm always pessimistic of things online because bandwidth simply crashes when you need it most. So in the meantime, my trusty assistants, the plastic figurines, the Potatoheads, have agreed to take the place of my actual students, and they can't, mostly because I can't make them be quiet by taking away their speaking apparatuses, but there you go. And they're going to help me today break down one idea from the lecture that is key, and I hope everyone got it in the lecture, but if you didn't, hopefully you get it now after this. Now, one of the things I mentioned in the lecture was Walter Benjamin's concept of aura. And of course, as we talked about beforehand, the Potatoheads and I, yes, it feels weird to pronounce Benjamin, but if you don't, you sound like an idiot to professionals in the field. So Benjamin it is. And the idea of aura, I think, is fairly simple. An object seems really awesome until you make lots of reproductions, and then it's just a lot less awesome because anyone can look at it, and no one's special for having looked at it. If you've gone to the Louvre to see the Mona Lisa, that makes you pretty cool, right? But only because you were actually in Paris. If the museum was in Cleveland or something, maybe not as much, right? But then everyone's seen the painting, so it's just not as big a deal as it would have been before we had reproductions of the Mona Lisa. That's what he means by aura. Now, the reason that's important is because we live in an age where there seems to be no distance whatsoever between us and everything happening in the world, right? Everyone in quarantine or everyone self-isolating right now can pull up a video of whatever. Somebody surfing in Hawaii, somebody hiking in Siberia, somebody cooking pancakes. Anywhere, really. You can see any of that. So there's a sense that we're connected to everything. But as I hope you're already figuring out, or maybe perhaps even realizing for the first time, being able to see these videos doesn't actually mean anything. There's still a deep sense of removed. We've just forgotten, right? Videos and the internet give the impression of having taken that away, but it's still there. Now, why does this matter in the concept, in the context of art or the arts and historical traumatic events? Well, let's start with a traumatic event. This is our community. It can be a community anywhere in the world, anyone in the world. Now, one person in the group is going to have something happen to them that will affect the rest of the group. Fairly traumatic. Thrown against a wall, broken into pieces. We will put him back together again. We will. Now, the rest of these people in the community are grappling with this in their own way as a group. Now, I've just taken a video of it. Technically, you all saw it, but there's a sense, at least on their part, that you're never actually going to be a part of it. And this is the trap we sometimes get into with the internet, is believing we have access to the event because we can see it, right? Now, the work of art is not trying to give you access to what has happened, because it understands that what has happened, even if you've recorded it with a camera, cannot possibly summarize, include, or in any way address this component, what people saw who were there. No matter how well recorded, there is no access to that. And painting, which was one of the first visual components to give sort of a representation of reality, created, and the arts do in a similar way, a neutral space, right? So if you watch an internet video, you think to yourself, wow, I'm really seeing what this person's going through, right? But a painting, because it looks maybe a little bit like something that has happened, but definitely not the same thing, pushes you back. Because you're not actually seeing it. You're seeing a sort of a fuzzy, grainy, splotchy paint version of it. Now, this is important in how it creates a community, because a lot of us can view a video and perhaps feel an emotional response, but it's never going to be this emotional response. And that's an important thing to remember in trying to grapple with things that are happening like this. The work of art assumes that there is no access to this. it assumes that there must be something else for all of us to engage on more or less equal footing. So if I make a sculpture, if I craft a bit of music, especially abstract and avant-garde music, which is much more inaccessible, right? There are formal components to the art, right? You can't just sometimes just look at a painting and go, wow, look, that's Mount Vesuvius. There are elements to appreciation that everyone has access to everywhere, and that experiencing that together allows us together to share something, a meaningful experience that does not exist if we all simply assume that the video of the event is a window that allows us access to it, right? So in a way, the work of art cuts off direct access and instead shunts us into a side lane where these people also can participate and experience. Because one of the things I think we forget is that in a traumatic experience, those who think that they are, because they are touched by it through direct video representation or internet footage, they forget that these people who have actually been there are far, far, far removed from anything we will ever feel, and they also need a space to participate in this. So as we move on in the course, keep in mind Benjamin's concept of aura and the idea of distance, that the further away we get from something, the more likely it is, sometimes anyway, for all the people viewing it to actually have a more or less equal footing, because the artistic form itself allows us to share something in common. All right? I'm going to pick Pete up, who I've hurled against a wall, put him back together again so that the Potatohead community can feel more at peace, and we will talk next time.